Good morning. This is Jeremy from Summit Technologies. I'm presenting, glad to present Scott Davis from Autodesk today. He's a senior AEC technical specialist there. Today he's going to be showing us Autodesk BIM 360 docs. So it's a cloud-based document management for your AEC projects. In regards to the webcast today, if you have any questions, just feel free to jump on your panel and ask any questions along there. If you have any questions afterwards, at the end of the webcast today, I'm going to put my email and contact information up. So if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to contact me. During the presentation, I'll be manning the polls here and answering any questions. Yeah, I'd like to present Scott Davis here. I'm just going to pass it over to him.
Great. Cool. Thanks, Jeremy. Can you guys hear me all right? Jeremy, you hear me all right?
I do. Yeah, you sound great.
Perfect. Good thing coming through loud and clear. First and foremost, thanks everybody for spending a little chunk of your morning here with us today. We really appreciate you giving up an hour. Obviously, you want to learn a little bit more about BIM 360 docs. Secondly, thanks to Summit AEC for putting on this webinar today so you guys could all join. It looks like we've got about 10 or so people currently on the line. Maybe some more will jump in as we go. I do know that we are recording this as well, and Summit is going to be posting it later on as part of their documentation. So if you need to go back and rewatch something, you can check with the Summit guys for where that link is going to be located. Again, my name is Scott Davis. I'm part of our senior AEC technical specialist team at Autodesk. I live just outside of downtown Los Angeles, actually a little farther, about 40 miles, generally about an hour outside of east of downtown Los Angeles. So that's where I'm coming to you from today. My job as an AEC technical specialist takes me all over the western half of North America and Western Canada as my territory. And my job responsibility is to talk to customers like you guys and show you technically how our tools can benefit your workflows, solve some challenges you might have, and really just tell you things that you may not know about our product set. I'm an architect by background. I worked in the industry for about 14 years prior to joining Autodesk, and I just had this past March, the beginning of March, was my 10-year anniversary at Autodesk, and oh man, it's gone by very, very quickly. So let's jump into this, and let me first of all give you a quick agenda about what we're going to be doing over approximately the next hour or so, depending on how well this goes and how I dive into it. Initially, I'm going to talk over a few different slides to really talk to you about what is BIM 360 first in general, because there are a couple of things going on here. There's BIM 360 as a platform, and then specifically about BIM 360 docs, the one component that you guys have all joined into the call today to hear a little bit more about. So we're going to walk through a series of slides to help explain that a little bit, and then I'm actually going to jump into a live demo. So it's web-based. It's going to be launched inside of a browser here today. We'll talk more about some of the different ways that you can access this data as well as we move forward. And as Jeremy said, if you do have questions, it looks like one's already popped up in the panel there. Go ahead and ask those in the webinar panel, and he'll try to jump on those and type back answers to you guys as well. So this webinar is all about Autodesk BIM 360 docs. It's cloud-based document management for your AEC projects, and that's really what it is in a sense, but it also is part of an overarching platform, right? So BIM 360 is our overarching AEC platform, which is a series of tools that's going to help you guys accelerate project delivery, reduce your risk, overall risk, and really easily allow you to connect and coordinate all of your documentation with really anybody that could be part of your project, with permissions as well. So that's a key part of this, is being able to access this data, get to it from really anywhere in the world on any device, and get to the information that makes the most sense for you. Again, it is an entire series of tools, and I'll show you a little bit more about those in a few moments. Some of the things that we've been hearing about BIM 360 as a platform, and some common misunderstandings that maybe it's only for the BIM manager. It's just a series of different tools, individual tools with a fancy name. Hopefully we'll dispel some of these myths and misunderstandings for you here in a little bit. Some people have said it's only for contractors, and that's definitely not true. It's really built for design teams all the way through even handover of this data over to the owner of the building once the design is complete and handover is happening. You know, it is a collection of apps. It does say iOS there on the screen, but we do have, you know, Android access as well now, iOS, web-based. So really, it's all about working on the device that makes the most sense to you. If you're on a desktop PC, on a Mac, have access to a browser, you can get to this data. Or if you're on a mobile device, even all the way down, in some cases, down to the phone level, you'll be able to, on a smartphone, get to this as well. And then some people just think that this just means glue. And if you don't know what glue is, we'll talk briefly about that here as well. So as we move forward here, let me kind of give you an idea about this overall platform, first of all. So let me go ahead and start building some of this out. We're going to start with that one called glue right there. And I'll explain a little bit about how these different workflows, these different kind of components of BIM 360 work. And then we're going to really dive in deep on BIM 360 docs here in just a moment. So BIM 360 Glue is a tool that is really used for that design and pre-construction phase. And it's a tool that allows us to essentially glue models together via the cloud, meaning that I can take disparate models, one from the architect, one from the mechanical engineer, another from the structural engineer. And each one of those individual disciplines can post or glue or host their models in the cloud. And then the other users individually then can glue those models together and do things like clash detection and coordination on them. Our next tool here that works in conjunction with Glue that you may not have heard about is called BIM 360 Layout. BIM 360 Layout is really a two-part application. The first part of that is a plugin that runs on top of AutoCAD, Revit, and Navisworks that facilitates or automates the placement of 3D points, these X, Y, and Z points, into your models, into your families if they're Revit, into the different components if they're AutoCAD or Navisworks. And then these 3D points describe really the model in space, X, Y, and Z. And then we can, on the second part of the app, is push those point data out to the iPad app and quickly connect with the guys in the field. And those guys in the field can then connect that iPad directly to a robotic total station to do laser-guided field layout of the different dimensions. Maybe it's edges of slab, maybe it's sleeves and concrete, maybe it's hanger wire locations, but all of that can be automated through this process. And then all of that can actually be round-tripped back into Revit for doing QA/QC. So you can actually have the surveyors go out, read that data again, bring it back into Revit, and then do deviation analysis to understand if all of the points are, in fact, actually located or if they're located with a certain level of accuracy. I'm going to jump ahead here. We're going to talk a little bit, just describe briefly about BIM 360 Field, another component of this BIM 360 platform. Field, in its namesake, is about taking data to the field. It really functions in this construction execution through commissioning and handover phase. And it's about taking the documents that you need to, and not just the drawings, but the drawings, whether they're from Revit, whether they're AutoCAD, they're PDF, even scan documentation if you have it, if you needed to scan in some old files. But far beyond that, if you need cut sheets, you need specifications, you've got job site photos, really all of those files that you might need to take out on site with you, you can post up to your field project site, and then you can sync an iPad with that data and take that data with you. And then on field, the iOS app can do further collection of field data, adding additional parameters to objects, adding things like install date, warranty date, etc., do markups, do issue tracking, QA/QC, punch listing, etc., are all things you could do inside a field. And that all leads to the handover, the commissioning, and the handover of that facility. In the middle here, a tool that we acquired was called Our Plan, now called BIM 360 Plan. And this is really our lean construction methodology planning tool. This is not a critical path method planning tool like P6, Primavera P6, or Microsoft Project, but really about that micro scheduling. It's about taking that overall master plan and breaking it down into its individual components, whether it's scheduling out your resources, meaning your people that you have for a job, or even scheduling sub-trades out on a job site during construction. So we show it kind of phasing here from everywhere through design, pre-construction, all the way through commissioning and handover, because it's a very flexible scheduling tool that's part of this BIM 360 platform. Down at the bottom, part of this is Building Ops. It's a work ticket system tool that gets fed with data as we're designing and constructing and then commissioning a process, building through these different processes. And this is really for the owner. So this tool allows the owner to, on day one, the very first day the facility is operational, to have a work ticket system tool available to them on mobile devices with all of that building rich data, that building information model, and all of that data, the I that goes with that, available at their fingertips so that they can really execute that building, make sure that the warranties continue and stay up to date, and have the things that you typically hand over to a building owner in 40 or 50 binders, sometimes plastic binders full of paper-based information. We can do all of that electronically now. And last but not least, up here at the top of the chart, BIM 360 Docs. So this is our cloud-based document management solution. And that's really how we talk about it at first blush, but it's really so much more than just a document management tool. It's a tool that's going to be spanning from the moment you start design all the way through commissioning and handover of the building. It is about documents. It is about being able to have your Revit files available to anybody via the cloud, on an iPad, on an Android device. It's about having those PDFs that you might make. It's about having those drawing files, but also having, again, all of that other project information available to you via the cloud. But on top of that, being able to do things like issue tracking, R5s, coming soon, submittals even, and really being able to get to the data where you need to. That's what we're going to dive into a little bit deeper here and show you guys today. So this is really what it is. It's about connecting your entire design and construction project teams and all of your documents in one system. BIM 360 Docs, as we continue to evolve this product, and it is rapidly evolving. Since last January, we've consistently had about 2 releases a month, and so the product is being rapidly iterated. In fact, if some of you in the past had looked at Docs maybe 6 months or even a year ago and decided that it wasn't quite where you thought it might need to be, this is the time to go back and take another look at it, because it has come just a tremendous way in a very short period of time and continues to evolve. And Docs is really going to become the backbone for our cloud-based system. It will be the repository for all of your drawings, all of your models, anything else you might have for a project. But then those models will be accessible to all of these other tools, even to your desktop applications like Revit and Navisworks and AutoCAD going forward. So you can think of this not only as a document management tool, but also as a centralized repository that will allow your teams to assuredly have access to the latest and greatest information that's available to you, unlike what you might be doing today, which might be some information stored locally on a file share in your own office. My office used to have what we called our P drive for projects, and that's where everything was stored. And then I'd take a Revit file and email it to somebody, and then as things like Dropbox and Box.net came along, and even before that, FTP site, we'd make another copy and go stick it on an FTP site. And before we knew it, we'd have documents all over the place, and nobody knew which was the latest and greatest. Nobody knew what was the most recent file name, because we'd end up with file names like Revit file, project file 1-final-final, right? And so we kind of laugh about it, but it happens all the time, and I see it happening still today over and over again in architecture and engineering companies of people not understanding where the latest and greatest information is at. So that's really the heart of BIM 360 Docs. And so it is, again, designed for that entire team. I'm showing you a couple screen grabs here. Today I'm going to be doing everything off of the browser. Over the webinar systems, it's a little bit tougher to show you cleanly the iPad interface, but there's a ton of information out there. And in fact, we can have some at AEC guys even follow up this webinar with including some links to where you can go get some additional information. There's screenshots, there's videos about the interfaces outside of the browser that I'm going to be running in today. You can even see down here, down to the iPhone, or I shouldn't brand it, down to the smartphone level as well. I have an Apple phone, so I tend to call them iPhones. But really, the idea is anytime, anywhere, access to any of the information you need by the entire project team, but also with the understanding that sometimes you can't always have online access, that you need to get to this where you're on a job site that just has no Wi-Fi or no cellular, no mobile signal. So being able to get to this data, sync it down to your mobile device, and then have access to it even if there's not a good signal or no good Wi-Fi on the site. Another key here is that the capabilities obviously are built around our tools, the Autodesk side of the platform, but we're not limited to hosting just Autodesk tools in this, or Autodesk file formats in this platform. So even things like MicroStation DGN files or SketchUp files, or really anything you need, Microsoft Word documents, Excel, etc., can all be part of the information that you end up storing as part of this overall document management system. It's really meant to be a single source for you to keep all of your project data. But key here, it's not just 2D. There are other solutions out there that are competitors with Autodesk that are 2D only solutions. And they kind of hide the fact that they're only 2D, and really after you dive into them at some point you find out, well, what if I want to view a 3D model? And then they point you over to a third party or another application that you have to go download and ultimately pay for in order just to view 3D models. So ours is completely 2D and 3D from all of our applications and even beyond that, outside of the Autodesk realm of applications. Okay. And I mentioned this already, it's assuring that all the teams are building from the correct document versions at any time. All right, so I told you I was going to go through some quick PowerPoint. So that was the PowerPoint deck. Pause for a moment, catch my breath. I tend to talk quickly about these things. And let me go ahead and fire up, there we go, back into my web browser. So what I did to get here, this is Docs, but what I did to get here was I just went to, you'll learn this, there's an URL that you can get to very quickly that's going to lead you to your overall account access. It uses your Autodesk single sign-on. So if you do not already have an Autodesk account, many of you do, but I encourage you to go make one. So that's actually the sign-in screen. If you don't have an account, it says create account here, big blue button. It looks like one of these. So I've already signed in. And then depending on what tools you might have available to you via your login and via your account, your own personal account administrators may have assigned different various tools of the BIM 360 platform to you as well. So I'm an account admin on the site, so I've given myself access to Glue, Field, Plan, and Docs. And we're going to go ahead and launch Docs and jump into it. But, you know, as I was saying earlier, really what's going to happen is that these things currently today function as separate applications, but if you watch here coming soon, and can't give away any exact dates, but just continue to watch our BIM 360 pages, what we're working towards is a really comprehensive solution where these things are all melded into one blue box where accessing one of them gives you access to all the different various tools. So just to give you a little hint of where things are and where things are to come as well. So I would just hit the Docs button. I've already done that here and launched into a new tab, so I won't put you through having it spool up again. So what it does here is it presents it to me, and again, I'm just in a browser. So just minimize this here for a second. So I'm just running in Chrome today. Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, all work well. I just have preferred Chrome as I've gotten into this kind of work. And I've got a list of projects available to me here. If I do a little drop down, I can quickly and easily switch to different various projects. If I slide across the top of the screen, you can see my avatar, my image over here. It tells me I'm logged in. There's an About section. If you need more information, this is going to access the Help section of Docs. And there's learning videos, and there's other resources there. So I encourage actually everybody to go check out the Help section, especially when you're just getting started inside of Docs. And then, of course, there's a setup button that is going to give you access to, if you are the account administrator or a project administrator, access to either one of those as well. So I'm of course, full admin on both project and account at this level. Down the left-hand side is our navigation pane. So we're currently in our folder structure, and we'll start there. And at first blush, you might be saying, well, you know, the interface looks pretty simple. Well, that was actually by design. We wanted to make this not disruptive to the workflow that you might be currently working in today. And we're all so used to working in foldered structures, whether it's Microsoft Explorer or other things, even like when you're in Dropbox or Box.net or really any of the other things. It really comes down to a series of folders or containers for your information. And what we allow you to do here is really create any number of folders and subfolders that you want. So we've got kind of two sections inside of Docs at the folder level. One is called Plans, and underneath that, you may or may not see this folder when you start. It's called Shop Drawings when you start your own Docs projects, but I have a Shop Drawings folder here as well. So I've got Plans, and then I've got a little divider, and then below that line, I've got Project Files. And so what we like to think of that is really kind of two separate sections. We like to think of this Plan section as our working drawing section. This is where, if you're working in Revit, this is where you want your RBT files placed. This is where you want, if you're using PDFs instead, or you have PDFs, this is where you want your PDFs or AutoCAD DWGs. And let me go ahead and expand that out. And what I've done here is just gone through myself, and I created a series of folders and subfolders to start organizing my information. So basically, everything below the plans folder is completely user definable. You guys can make any number of folders and subfolders. In fact, if you have a kind of common or office standard already set of folders, you can easily recreate that here. And again, I'll feed you a little bit of coming soon, some automated ways of being able to start making templates of these things, so it makes it easy for you to bring in folder structure, folder information that you might already have, and then copy that from project to project as you create new docs projects as well. So you can see I've got design team down the list here. And then at each one of these, and I'll just start way up here at the top under plans, we've got the 3 ellipses buttons. This is where we can go to do things like adding additional subfolders, renaming. I can upload files directly to this plan section. I can actually add additional attributes at the folder levels as well. So whether they're at the top level or down below that, and that's really these column headers that are across the top here that help me organize the data, so I can add additional attributes to these files and then sort by the data that I put there. And of course, then there's sorting, numerical. It says A to Z, but it's numerical or alphabetical or by date. And then really importantly about this is the ability to actually have permissions. So giving the right people the right access to the right information, and then restricting others from information that you may not want to share with them. So if I start at the top level here at the plans folder and I go into my permissions, it's basically going to say that at this level, and then everything down below that, if I set some permissions here, those permissions are going to be inherited all the way down this tree. And so if I really wanted to drill into something very specific and only give somebody certain rights, maybe down at the plumbing level folder, then of course I could set their rights here as well and maybe only give them access to this folder. But what's really nice about this, if I go back up to the plans, is you can actually enter these roles by, well, you can enter these permissions by role. So I could come in here and say that maybe it's the architect. If I load that up, start typing, I heard my caps lock's on. So now I could, say I want to assign a role by architect, or let me back that out for a moment. Maybe it's by company. So I know that Autodesk is a company that's in this system. We're actually now pulling up from email address. So let's back up here a little bit. I know I have Autodesk loaded as a partner somewhere. Yeah, making a liar out of me today. But anyway, you can sort by company as well, or then all the way down to the individual names. And so you can see I've got individuals in here. I've got Autodesk as a company. I've got project manager as a role. And then my individual permissions move from everything from strictly upload only. You're just giving a person rights to actually post or upload files to a particular folder or subfolders, through view only, view and upload rights, view, upload, and edit. And this is edit only at the viewing level, meaning that they can add markups, they can add issues. This is not edit control of actually editing, let's say, a Revit file, an RBT file, but it's edit capabilities on the site itself. Really what we're doing here is not editing RBT files, we're viewing them and being able to mark them up, and I'll show you that here in a few moments. And then all the way up to full control rights. And so full control is basically read, write, being able to delete folders, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so hopefully all of that makes sense. But we do also have a title blocks section over here as well. If I drill down into a particular folder, the reason why we have this title blocks definition is really for PDFs. And so if you are uploading PDFs, what we like to do is that we actually, through the cloud, we OCR, or optical character recognition, scan these PDF documents as they are uploaded. And the only thing that we ask of you is you tell the system where does the sheet name and sheet number exist in that title block. And so what you can do is actually upload a PDF that shows the title block, and then you can go in and define where the sheet number is, in this case A1.1, where the name is, and then I can give it a name. So I happen to have 2 in this set, one called PDF2 and one called 30 by 42. And then each subsequent time that I upload a new PDF, it's going to ask me which title block does that one belong to. So you could have an 8.5 by 11, let's say, or 11 by 17, an E size, a D size, and A1 size. Any different title blocks that you have could be loaded in here. So when you then post a PDF, it's going to, depending on which title block you pick, it's going to search that particular area of the drawing, and then it's going to grab those sheet numbers and sheet names. And that's really important because in PDFs, and I'll show you in a little bit, we're automatically going to hyperlink that entire set for you via the cloud. So all you have to do is define the title block. Autodesk Cloud does the rest and automatically hyperlinks all of the callouts, details, sections, even text within a document that says, see sheet A1.1, you know, for more information, or detail 2 on A1.1, and it's going to find that in the text and link that as well. Now, if it is a Revit file, then Revit, inherently, the hyperlinks are already built in because of the way that Revit works. And so those hyperlinks come over as well without having to go through that title block definition process. That's really just for PDFs. All right, so I've gotten down to my models folder now. I could expand that a little bit more. I was working on being able to post some families here for my Revit project. But what I really want to show you now is what happens if you load or upload an RVT file to the site. So what I have here is, you can see the file name's all the same. This project is called 56750_A for architectural.rvt. So it's one single RVT file, obviously, but then all of the sheets that are part of that automatically through the cloud get extracted out into their individual sheets. So you can see I've got ground floor plan A101, A102, all the way down. And in fact, of course, the 3D view as well down here. So the 3D view of the architectural file is posted down here at the bottom. But then if you notice over here, the version history, right? So they're not all versioned the same. Well, that's because sometimes when you make a change to an object in Revit, it doesn't affect all of the different various sheets. The sheets inside of docs from a Revit file, and in fact from PDFs as well, get treated as individual objects even though they came from the same file. So the version control that we're doing is actually going down and looking at the sheet level and saying, whatever change was made to the model at one point affected the A301 elevation sheets all the way up to version 5, but has not affected the A302 elevation sheet yet. That's still at version 1 of that drawing set. All right, so again, really straightforward, really simple, easy to use, and that's key, both here on the browser version on the desktop, or really the exact same system if you're on a tablet device like an iPad or an Android device, except a little bit more optimized for that touch-based rather than mouse-based approach here. All right, so now let's imagine we gotta view these things. So it's not just a list. This isn't just a document tool. It goes far beyond that, right? So if I want to go in and see, let's go look at the second floor plan of this RVT file. Now, of course, I've got Revit on my machine, but imagine I didn't. Imagine I needed the general contractor or maybe the owner, somebody that's not familiar with Revit at all, or maybe it's just my project architect and he doesn't know how to use Revit. All I have to do is basically post these models here. It'll extract the 3D views and the sheets, and then anybody that has permission to this particular folder can come in and click on one of these views, and without any plugins required, without having to make another file format, without having to make a PDF, or in the past we had you guys make DWFs, you're going to be able to see that file. And again, without having to have Revit installed, we've got access to that information. If I zoom in here a little bit tighter on this, of course we can pan around. There's a zoom to window down here at the bottom. I got a new mouse. I got to change my scroll factor on my mouse because right now it's not very fast. It's scrolling very slow on the screen. So I apologize for that. So, in essence, it looks like a drawing file, right? And if you didn't know any better, if you were used to a PDF-based process, it looks like a PDF, right? And I'm going to explain some of the other stuff going on here in just a moment. We can browse around the sheet. You do see those hyperlinks that automatically came across. So, section 3 on A401, section 1 on A403. If I want to go explore that, of course, it's just a hyperlink. I just click on the blue box. It gives me a thumbnail first to make sure that that's really where I wanted to go, and then I just click view, and it's going to take me to that next sheet, and then the next sheet, and then the next sheet. As far deep kind of into the set as I need to go. And then if there's something that did not get automatically hyperlinked that I want to hyperlink on my own, we do have an add hyperlink button down here in the toolbar across the bottom, and that's what this other kind of different color blue rectangle is a hyperlink that was manually created to a different part of the document set, or even to a different document that's part of our BIM 360 doc site. So, maybe this went out to a spec section that was in another folder, and we could do that as well. And then as if I go and maybe drill down here into another view deeper, we're going to build that return list over here. So that's going to allow you to go back, basically, if you need to go back a sheet or go back 2 sheets, or you've gone 10 hyperlinks deep, you're going to build out this list and you want to return all the way back to the very first sheet you're on. You can very quickly and easily go back. We can just simply flip sheets, so you can go next document and go A102, A103, A104, or of course there's a little thumbnail preview across the very bottom. So if you know your sheet numbers and names, and even can identify it maybe by the small thumbnails down here. You can very quickly and easily switch back and forth between any one of the sheets that are there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I should point out while I'm here, this little green kind of scholar hat down at the bottom that looks like a graduation cap. That's your Learning Central. So if you do have any questions along the way as well, or you want to go through a quick how-to learning guide, you can click on this. It's going to bring up your Getting Started guide about how to upload documents, add folders, about how to get to the mobile app, how to invite people to your project, so on and so forth. And so you can get started in this BIM 360 Docs technology really, really quickly. All right, so what are these other things going on here? So I've got some yellow dots. I've got a red markup going on here with a little bit of text, and I've got a purple square. Well, let me go ahead and turn a couple of these off for a moment. We're going to come back to them. First and foremost is markups. So here's the toggles down here at the bottom, but right now I'm in the markup panel, which I can hide as well. So I got one markup right here that says that we need to adjust the size of this room. Somebody left a note. Well, let's go figure out a little bit more about that. So in my drawing panel over here on the left, I'm going to go into that markup panel and realize that that particular markup, if I click into it, it's going to highlight. So here's the one it is. It's adjust size. Was created by Joe Gould on March 13th and was actually created with the current version of the drawing set. There's been no attachments with this markup, but if we needed to, or if I needed some additional information, I could come into this little paperclip and I could browse to another set of my BIM 360 Docs project site and basically link in another document into this markup. Maybe we need that for a little bit more information, or maybe it's a job site photo or something else that I want to link in to help further clear up why this markup was created in the first place. But what's really nice about markups here is they live on with the document set as long as they're open items. So if we go ahead and upload a new document to a new RVT file, a new Revit file to this doc site, and it becomes version 6, this open markup that has not been resolved yet is going to live on with the document set because it hasn't been resolved. But once it does get resolved, we can go ahead and close those out, which will then, in essence, leave them, as the versions come up, leave them for history, but we can always go back. They're always going to be part of this markup panel and review where the markups were in history of the project. So a really, really nice feature. And then adding new markups is really simple as well. Click the Add button. Your cursor changes into a little crosshair. Your tool set across the bottom changes. You get a series of boxes, circles, clouds, freehand, some quick arrows, text, and then even different color sets here. So if we want to go in and change the color of a markup, or if I want to change the overall kind of pin thickness of that as well, I can do that. I'll just go ahead and quickly, I'm on freehand, if we needed to, this is what ends up happening in these drawing sets that we have for our demo data sets, is we end up having markups all over the place. But if I wanted to create a new markup there, I could. If I wanted to add a little bit of text about what that was. And then when I clicked done, which I won't do today because I just don't want to clutter up this drawing set too much, but if I click done, it's going to automatically add it to my markup panel over here. In fact, you know what, let's just do it. I'm going to click done just to show you. So here's my new markup. Automatically author stamps it because obviously I'm the one that's making it, time stamps it, so I know exactly when that was created. In fact, the entire team now knows when that markup was created and who it belonged to in the first place. So really, really powerful, easy documentation tool. Again, this could be done from an Android, this could be done from an iPad, this could be done from the desktop, like I'm talking to you guys say here inside of Chrome. And so it's, again, that anytime, anywhere access to being able to get to the information, but not just get to it, but be able to do things like start communicating about it. I want to create something, some kind of markup, some form, whether it's a cloud, a note, a box, that I need to notify some other member of the team that we need to take action on that item. Of course, then we can close out that view there to have that kind of filter for the markups for this particular sheet. So I'm going to zoom back out of here a little bit. The next thing down here, if I turn these back on, are issues. And so we can actually do issue tracking inside of Docs as well. So when I turn on the toggle for those, let me turn off our markups for a minute just to keep it clear. That's what these yellow dots are. These are actually push pins. They're actually identifying an issue directly on this plan. So if I come in and I go to my issue tracking log here, what I can see is I've got 2 open ticket items on this drawing. I've got ticket number 11. It was due, it's still open. Oh my gosh, our project's way behind. It was actually due on July 29th of last year. I've got another open ticket item. It's a drywall crack, probably a punch list item that was created by Joe and actually assigned to Michael back in March. Oh, St. Patty's Day was last year. So that's when that one was created. Of course, as you guys get into projects and these lists get longer and longer, we can do some things like filtering these out. I could say, just show me all of the open ticket items that are maybe assigned to maybe AP or anybody that's part of my project. And show me all the ones that are just assigned to just myself. And in this list, it's not going to show me all that. Or created between a certain set of dates, or they were due between a certain set of dates. And then it's going to filter out that list for me as well. And of course, I could just go ahead and sort these things by coordination date as well. So new to old, old to new. Show me the ones that are closed. It's all different ways of organizing this data to make it more clear for you in your projects. As they get closed out, so if I go into one of these here, issue number 11, my pin becomes larger. It notifies me with the number that this is number 11. So now I've expanded this out. It's still an open ticket item. I do have the ability to come down to the bottom and basically start a threaded response. So if I needed some more info, I could go in and say I need more info. Of course, if this was a real project, I'd be more descriptive about what I'm looking for. But if I say I need more info, and then I can click post, and now I've started a threaded response, and the rest of the team is getting notified that I've added some information to this issue, and now we can start having a online cloud conversation about what's going on here on issue 11. And then when it does come time to officially responding to this, so the drywall needs repair, I can come in and say drywall was repaired. Oops, I can't type. On Friday, let's just call it April. What was Friday? Here I'll just take out the date because I don't know what if it was Friday. I'll say April 1st, and then I'm going to mark that as answered. And notice my pin changed color, so now it's green. So you'll get used to in your drawing sessions being able to see which ones have been answered, which ones are still open ticket items. And if I needed to go in and actually add a little bit more information to this, I could have gone in, maybe I was on my iPad standing on site, I could have actually taken a picture of the area in question and said, here's the picture of the repaired drywall, and attached it directly to this issue. So now we have even a further record about how that was taken care of. A couple other things here. The next one down is our RFI. So we talked about having, this is a fairly new part of Docs, but having RFI tracking. So these are the square push pins. And in fact, let me go back out here because I have another drawing set. In fact, or another sheet of this set here, A101. It's a little bit more messy. There's a few more markups and things going on here. Let me turn off the markups for a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and hide our issues. So I've actually got 4 different RFIs going on this particular sheet. And again, I can see them all here. I can see the ones that are color-coded that have been answered, the ones that have been submitted that do not have a current answer yet. And in fact, I can see that some of them are not even weren't even created with the current set of the drawing set, but they're still living on with this because they haven't been closed out yet. When we create an RFI, depending on our role, if I'm a subcontractor, then we automatically route this through a proper workflow channel, which would be to route it next to either the general contractor or the construction manager, depending on the type of job that you have for construction. Then it's up to that general contractor. The ball in court would put it, in their inbox and let them know they have a new RFI number 4 that's been submitted. They could then go and respond to that, mark it as answered, or they can mark it as it needs more info, and then it would pass it along to the next ball in court and chain, which would be the architect, or the architect can then do the same and pass it off to his consultant team. And then obviously the approvals as they go through work their way all the way back to the person that originally asked the question or posted the RFI in the first place. There's, again, additional information that can be hosted with these things. So here's a threaded response of what has happened in this particular one. This is when it was created in the first place. Here, Joe attached a schedule. His question was, we need to know what door type this is, and then posted the schedule information as well as a drawing sheet. And so we've got this, this response going on here about it. And then at some point it was marked as answered by me on January 20th of this year. And I said it's door type F and has a 30-minute rating and marked it as answered. So really, really easy workflow. Again, just because it's cloud-based, it means that anybody that has access to this folder, has permissions to this particular set, can go and look at these RFIs, review them, and be part of that process as well. And of course, the last button here just for this drawing is actually an entire history, so you can see what was uploaded and when, and we're going to jump into a little bit more of the history here in just a second. All right, so I'm going to close out. I got to move my GoToMeeting window here just a little bit. There we go. And so I'm going to move out of the sheet, And let's go take a quick look at that 3D view, because of course, Revit file, you're going to get the 3D model along with it. And again, without having to make any special file format, without having to make a PDF or a 3D PDF, or post a file that some other user is going to have some special plugin that they're going to have to go download and install, and they probably don't have rights to install that plugin. They're going to have access to these models instantaneously. So again, maybe a non-Revit user, project architect, project engineer that never uses Revit wants to go visualize the model. So they can jump in and obviously orbit around, pan, view. You've got your entire set of tools along the bottom. We can even do a walk, which is going to, basically allow us to push forward in the model. Oops, my walk is not working today inside of, maybe it's the GoToMeeting or the GoToWebinar. It's messing us up. Normally, what I would get would be to walk forward in space. Right now, it just wants to pan and tilt. So I'll have to go back and check that out and see what's going on there. But I can actually add markups inside of a 3D view. We do not have the issue tracking or the RFIs inside of 3D models yet, but might give you a clue that I say yet. So just watch our site, and I think you'll be happy to see some of the changes that are coming soon. Of course, we can measure as well. So we can come in here and I can measure object to object. I can set my unit. So if I want to be in feet and fractional inches, or I want to be in metric, we can do that. Then I can just simply come in and start clicking on different objects in the model set. Maybe let me come back to turn off my walk here. Zoom in a little bit tighter, and we want to know how far maybe it is between these different windows. Wow, my zoom is really slow today. All right, we can go from here, maybe to here, and I'm purposely going to go off axis a little bit, and that measurement's going to tell me, in the Z direction, straight up and down, you were 7'4" in this case, but you were off in the Y direction. If I zoom a little bit tighter, you can actually see it. It's telling me where I kind of measured across these objects, so I can get a really accurate idea of my overall measurement. So that's obviously a nice capability. And then just 3D section capability. So being able to take this thing and slice it by X, Y, or Z planes. I just did a Z plane for now, and if I tilt back up here a little bit in our view. Here's the other thing, besides my scroll not being very fast, but hopefully this is coming through the GoToMeeting. I'm purposely not moving my mouse extremely fast, but on my end, it's smooth as butter, so to speak. And it doesn't really matter the size of the Revit files that you post here, the models. It's all very smooth and very easy to get around these models and do things like 3D sectioning. Of course, I've chopped down through the roof and the upper floor here to reveal the kind of axonometric floor plan view, if you will. And then, of course, one thing I haven't even mentioned yet that is nice about all of this stuff, whether it's 2D or 3D, and I can go back and show this to you in a drawing, is it still has all of that the I in BIM, all of that information. So really all the parameter data that came out of the Revit file, whether it was the constraints, the dimensions, the identity data, the materials, the assemblies, the type mark, etc. It's all information that is still embedded in these models that you don't get with a lot of other file formats. And that's one advantage we have of really dealing with that native RVT file format, is all that data-rich environment comes across as well. Okay, so that's a couple things you can do there. Of course, there is a model browser as well that allows you to go through and do things like isolating out all the doors or the different walls. And so you can see it's kind of ghosting out the rest of the model at this point, so we can just see just the items that I have highlighted. And of course, you have visibility control as well, so I can come in and right-click, and I can say, hide selected, and it's going to start turning on and off walls and allowing us to see different various parts of the model. If I need to turn a roof off, I can select on it and do that as well. All right. Got about 12 minutes left, so I'm going to try to get through a little bit more of this, because there's a couple other things I think that are very, very compelling here about docs. One of my favorite features is, myself, I said I was an architect. I practiced for about 14 years prior to joining Autodesk, and a lot of these kind of tools obviously didn't exist yet. Revit was still, I will say it was fairly new. It was, I left, it was about Revit 8.1, I believe, was the version it was in, or maybe it was in the numbered versions of the yearly versions, 2008. But having tools of helping us figure out what changed between drawing sessions. I was still using a normal light table or overlaying drawings on my desk to do coordination checks. So, one thing that used to frustrate me a lot was just getting files from consultants. And this works no matter if you're the architect, the engineer, vice versa. When changes get made, it's so hard to go through a drawing set in cloud where that change affected the drawing set in its entirety, right? Or if you do, then the cloud, the drawings just become a mess because you've got clouds drawn all over the place with revision bubbles. wouldn't it be nice if there was a system that actually automatically showed us what changed between different versions of drawings? Well, we have that here. So when I go over to the version number, I'll do it on the ground floor plan, and I click on the version history, it's first going to show me the entire history here. And then down here at the bottom, it's going to say compare versions. So what this allows me to do is basically check off 2 drawings at a time. So I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to come over here and say, you know what, show me all the changes between what was version 1 when this thing first got uploaded, and then version 5. And then just to explain what's going on here, some of these were actually reverted back. So you actually have the ability in Docs to roll back an individual sheet inside of the drawing set as well. So, but in this case, I'm just going to compare version 5 that was done in July with version 1 that was done in June, hit compare. And what it's going to do now is it's really going to overlay these drawings in a virtual light table format. So there they are. You actually have two of the exact same floor plan drawings, but different versions overlaid on top of each other. And it may be a little bit hard to start seeing some of the changes are made. If I zoom a little bit tighter right here at my cursor, you can probably tell that this exam room 2-4 actually has 2 doors in it. One of them is a little bit grayed out, a little bit screened back. And I like to compare that to actually a real light table where you had 2 sheets of paper, and the one on the bottom was, you know, a little bit more gray, so to speak, than the one on top. So you can start seeing changes like that, but to make this really apparent, we've added the ability to add color to this as well. So now you can see that version 1 of this drawing set was red and version 5 was blue, and now those changes really start to stand out. You can see that the door at version 1 was over here, and now it's over here in blue. It moved across to the other corner of the room, and in turn, it looks like some dimensions got shuffled around a little bit. So this isn't just the modeled objects, but it's also the annotation objects as well. And we're in the straight overlay mode. And then if you want to, what I call flip the sheet on the light table, you can go into slider mode, which allows you then to grab the slider control and actually flip that sheet back and forth. So here's before in red, and as I slide across the exam room 2-4, you can see the before and after in that view. And not only does this work with the color turned on, but it also works so you can kind of see it in what would be printed output as well. So black and white mode, but still with the color coding of what changed in between those things. So some dimensions have moved, the door has changed a little bit, so you can really easily notify where those things are different between the different drawing sessions. Now, if I would have had this tool back 10 years ago, oh my gosh, this would have been a lifesaver, right? Understanding between different versions that I got from my consultants what changed, whether it was structural, mechanical, electrical, and being able to see those changes so I could react to them immediately, or provide information back to my consultant saying, hey, we can't move that, you know, my structural, we can't move that beam or that column there because I've got this other part of the design. It just would have facilitated having a conversation about these things in a much more, you know, easy way, a much more transparent way, doing it through BIM 360 Docs like I'm showing you today. All right, so a couple other things I want to show you. I've basically been at our folder level the entire time here today. So this is where we started off with adding folders and subfolders, and we went to browse an RVT set, 2D and 3D, and I showed you the drawing compare feature. Of course, you can search as these drawing lists get long. We can go in and start searching for documents inside of this. I can look at the publish log over here at the top, which is going to show me when these files are actually uploaded. And I've actually got, somebody's got one uploading and being analyzed now. So you can see where they're at in their process. I'll close out of that. You know, being able to view really into this document. And then I told you earlier about being able to do the same thing with PDFs. So let me just quickly show you that, because obviously PDFs are a big part of this process today, whether it's design or construction. And we can take in PDFs all day long. The beauty here is that the end user doesn't need any particular PDF viewer. They don't have to have Acrobat. They just have to have access to BIM 360 Docs, and they can come in here and just simply click on a sheet out of that PDF set. This happened to have been a multi-sheet PDF. And just as we saw before, the ability then to have clouds, issue tracking, RFIs, et cetera, are all available inside of that as well. This particular sheet that I'm looking at right now does not have any hyperlinks on it, but if I can move down to my next sheet, it would. My browser froze, I believe, in context here, so let me see if I can get that reloaded for you. All right. Always a snafu when we're doing this stuff live in front of people. All right, so I'm going to kill that browser tab, and we're going to go ahead and reload it here. But quick and easy to get back into. All right, so we're back in that sheet. If I flip over to the next document, there we go. Talked early on about defining a title block and then doing automatic hyperlinking. And when this PDF view pops up here in a moment, then you're going to see the hyperlinks embedded in this one as well. Or maybe not. For some reason, my browser, my machine is not liking this particular file set today. So usually it's up by now and would be on the next sheet. Maybe I can go to a thumbnail and nope, it's going to crash the browser again. So I'm going to have to look into that. That's something going on my end. I'm not sure if it has to do anything with GoToWebinar or not. But let's close it out. I'll just launch right back into Docs. And then there's a couple last things I want to show you here before we run out of time. About 5 minutes left. I would browse down to that PDF section again and show it to you, but I just think there's something inherently going wrong on my end, and I just don't want it to crash again. So at this folder level, we also have an issue log for the entire project. So we'll look at this and see that in this current project called Medical Center-SDD, there's 35 issues that have been identified. You can see that some are answered, some are open tickets. You can see who they were created by, who they were assigned to, when their due date was. And of course, we could come through and just click on the headers themselves. So if I want to come in and say, just sort them by open and answered, we could do that, or even closed. If I want to filter this even further and say, just show me, I want all of the open ticket items again. Maybe I'll show you all of the open ticket items that were assigned to me in this case. You can apply that filter, and then now there's the ones that they're the only ones that I need to be worried about. So now I want to go into one of these. Maybe I want to go into this issue number 15. I can click on it. It's going to open in this window. It's going to allow me to actually post a response here if I need to without having to drill into the sheet, start that threaded conversation, add attachments to this as well. Or if I need to go see it, because this is actually identified on a sheet, I can hit View on Document. This is new. This just came up in the last week or so. Brand new feature to BIM 360 Docs is the ability to navigate from an issue or an R5 directly to that sheet. And not only does it do that, but it's actually going to highlight and open in the issue tracker the exact issue and then highlight the button for me as well, or the pin in the drawing set. So that's a really nice new feature of being able to navigate directly to the sheet from the RFI log on the front screen. And then that was issues, the exact same thing with RFIs. So I get a list of all of my RFIs on the project. If I need one in particular, these are associated with some different sheets. If I want to come in here, I can say View on Document. Of course, I could come in and add some comments to it again if I needed to, or if I wanted to go view this on the document. I clicked on the link and it's going to open that document, and it's going to take me right to that RFI in both the preview pane down here and then also in my issue or my RFI tracking list for this exact sheet and show me where it's at. So again, some really fantastic features there as well. These, again, if I would have these in practice, would have been huge time savers for me. I told you I was going to give you a couple hints. I mentioned one earlier about history or what's coming up in the future with Docs. There is a roadmap document that is available, and again, the Summit AEC guys can get you guys out some links. One of them is on the Autodesk forums. So if you go on the forums.autodesk.com and you search for BIM 360, you can actually find a publicly facing BIM 360 Docs roadmap. And that roadmap outlines the things that we have up and coming. We don't really put them in any particular order or specify exact dates of when you might expect those things, but at least gives you a good idea of where we're moving with this platform. And I can mention that submittals is part of this as well. Tying this into other authoring services like Collaboration for Revit, so I could publish my models directly from Collaboration for Revit out to BIM 360 Docs is something we're working towards as well in the future. So again, BIM 360 Docs is going to become this centralized repository for all of our information from a project with access from within our applications, and really become that hub, that anytime, anywhere access hub for not only document storage, but for document viewing, for markups, for issue tracking, for RFIs, for submittals, and even far beyond that. So with that, it looks like I'm pretty much right on time, top of the hour. I want to thank you guys for joining us here again on the webinar today, spending a little bit of time with me. Hopefully we've gotten, I haven't looked at our question panel, but hopefully if there's been some questions, Jeremy was able to get those out. If there are further questions, you can just submit those in, and we'll be sure to get those published out to everybody. And again, this was recorded, So if you need to, we will publish a link, and you guys can go back and rewatch the recording again at another time. So once again, this is Scott Davis from the Senior AEC Technical Specialist team at Autodesk. Thanks again for your time. Enjoy the rest of your days and the rest of your afternoons. Thanks, everybody.
That's great, Scott. Thank you very much. That was a lot of information that you just gave us. I especially like the light table feature. That is kind of worth the price of admission right there. I'm just going to switch over to my screen here quickly just to close the webinar out here. And we just have a couple webinars coming up. I think my thing's blocking there. We just have a couple webinars coming up on Tuesday, April 11th. That's going to be presented by Bob Heyman here. So that's about the Autodesk maintenance of subscription and all the changes with that. Then on Thursday the 20th, Edwin is going to be doing best practices in Revit family creation. So that is that one's actually just about full. So go to our website under About Us. You're going to see that there's a contact in there for signing up for any of these upcoming webinars. And last but not least, this is my contact information. So as Scott was saying, if you have any questions about any of the features or information about that roadmap, feel free to just give me a shout. So or give me an email. So once again, thank you, Scott, very much for presenting BIM 360 Docs, and have a good day, everyone. Thank you.